After a prolonged period of border closure, Vietnam is finally welcoming international tourists again. I wanted to walk you through the current entry requirements and some of the visa options that you may want to consider. What a breakthrough time that we're in right now. I know you guys have been waiting for this moment for so long, as much as I've been waiting for this moment, and it finally arrived. Vietnam is open to international tourists again. After a lot of talks how the country should reopen its borders, they were looking into neighboring countries to see how they progressed with the reopening plans. And before this whole thing really evolved to the picture that you all wanted to see, Vietnam was actually considering, well, they actually had planned to reopen with very, very tight entry requirements that a lot of you guys would not have been happy with. Under the old requirements, you would need to be vaccinated within half a year, within 6 months. Otherwise, you're considered unvaccinated, or provide proof of recovery, which of course is not so easy to do because you need a positive PCR test and you also need to go to the doctor's office to get a written confirmation from a health professional confirming that you don't have COVID at this moment in time. Obviously, these requirements have been removed as much as the quarantine and further testing upon arrival has been removed. Here are the current entry requirements. No matter where you're coming from, as long as you're arriving from any of the 80 countries that Vietnam has a treaty with, there's over 80 countries that can visit Vietnam without a visa. And if you arrive from any of these countries, then all you really need is a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours prior to arrival. Not departure, but arrival. That's very important. Or a negative antigen test 24 hours before arrival. Make sure you remember that. And that's pretty much all it takes right now. That's the official statement of the Vietnamese government. It's all they want to see from you. So the vaccination status doesn't matter anymore. The testing upon arrival doesn't matter anymore. Quarantine upon arrival has been removed, doesn't matter anymore. And a lot of people are really shocked. They are in shock because they had never expected something like this to happen. If you take a look at the neighboring countries, they have also opened up, but with much tighter entry requirements. So it came as a complete surprise. What I think happened was that the government saw that flights are empty. There's a ton of flights scheduled, maybe not a ton, but a decent amount. Most of those flights have been fairly empty because they know, well, we tested this, we came up with a plan that we thought to be a plan that people could accept. They knew that most people probably wouldn't be happy with it, so they tried the worst possible plan, the worst possible option to see how many people would bite. After they saw that very few people actually bid, what they decided to do was to remove these entry requirements because they want to revive the economy. That is what's been happening, and that is a very important thing that happened. Now we're going to see how many people are actually traveling to Vietnam in the weeks and months to come, whether this has been enough or whether even the PCR test will be removed, since the new variants of COVID have really been downgraded to something like a flu. Can this change? Of course it can change. It can change in a heartbeat. There are no guarantees, and if you watch this video today, chances are the entry requirements are going to be very different 4 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now. What I wanted to tell you about is the current visa situation. Government said that the visa situation hasn't changed. They want to move ahead with the same conditions as they had pre-pandemic. Everybody wanted to see the same conditions as pre-pandemic. Needless to say, people are very happy about it. People obviously are not going to complain, but what remains unclear is how the visa extension will work for those who are in Vietnam, right now and in the coming weeks. Because the government hasn't really made it clear how easy it will be for current visitors to extend the visa while they're in Vietnam. They said that the entry visas are going to be the same, but they haven't really commented on the visa extension process for people in the country. In case you want to live in Vietnam for the long term, there is a couple of options that you may want to consider. The first option is obviously the entrepreneur path, which requires you to start a business in Vietnam. You can start a limited liability company. There's a certain process that you need to follow in order to incorporate the company, including choose a company name that is currently available. So you're going to pick several names. I would recommend 2 to 3 names. You run it through the index to make sure that one of these 3 names is available. Obviously, you go with the name that you want. Once you have chosen the company name, once you have an available company name, then the next thing that you want to do is incorporate the company through an agency. It's really important that you use an agency because there is a lot of paperwork involved. It is a legal process. It is not something that the average person will be able to do because of language barrier, lack of experience. Whether you decide to do it through an agency or a lawyer, just make sure that you allocate somebody who has a decent amount of experience in this subject. It's really important that you do, because if you find someone who's experienced with this, it's going to shorten your learning curve, and it's also going to shorten the amount of time that it takes to get your company incorporated and up and running. The next step that you basically want to follow is to get a work permit, right? You need to sponsor yourself. Once you have the company incorporated under your name, it's going to be pretty easy to make you an employee. And there needs to be a contract in place in order to make this work, because it must be done the right way, because with a work permit you can also later on obtain residency, which is something that every person wants so bad. Because with residency, you can pretty much return to the country you would think during any time, during any challenge that the world represents at any moment in the future. There have been certain occasions when residents were not allowed to enter the country, but for the majority of the time, even during the pandemic, residents were allowed to enter Vietnam. Make sure you follow all of this, because I really want you to have success with this process. In case you don't want to incorporate a company but still want to live in Vietnam, what you want to consider is to work for a local company. You could become an English teacher, a French teacher, German teacher. If you speak any of the major languages and you want to live in Vietnam, chances are you're going to find a language school that may be willing to sponsor you. This is no guarantee, but there are schools out there that you can apply for, and it would be an option for you to get into the country. Again, you get a work permit, and with the work permit, you have a really secured visa for as long as the company is willing to have you employed, of course, because if the company decides, it's time to let you go, they don't want to work with you anymore, then you would naturally lose the visa as well. But anyway, with this, you feel a lot more secure than with something like a tourist visa, where the government can decide from one day to the next, it is time to change the tourist visa rules, and certain conditions may not apply anymore, making it a lot harder for you to remain in the country for the long term. For those of you who are looking to achieve that, you obviously have the marriage visa. With this visa, you can get unlimited access to Vietnam. In case you married overseas and you want to use the marriage certificate that you have, you would obviously need to get translated, and then you would need to follow the process that the embassy has in place for you. This is a guaranteed way on how you can remain in the country for a long term. Maybe I shouldn't say guaranteed, because nothing in life is ever guaranteed, but there is the highest chance, the highest probability of all, with either, a residence permit, or in case you're married to a Vietnamese, that you're gonna be able to get your hands on a long-term visa. Were you thinking of returning to Vietnam? Are you currently in the country, and what is it like living there right now? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, visas, crypto advice, and business advice several times a week right now. I highly recommend that you grab a free copy of my ebook Nomad Elite, the Insider's Guide to Retaining a Life of Freedom. All you need to do is click on the link below the video. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos. Thank you for watching.